The air in Theta 7 smelled wrong. It always did. A mixture of alien sweat, burning fuel, and something else Jin couldn't quite name. He walked through the lower decks with his hands in his jacket pockets, eyes scanning the crowded corridors. The station was known for three things: cheap fuel, no questions, and trouble. Jin was just a cargo hauler. He moved mining equipment from one planet to another, made enough credits to keep his ship running, and stayed out of other people's business. That was the plan anyway. Today he needed fuel, and the main docks were charging triple the normal rate. Someone told him the lower markets had better prices. Someone also failed to mention what else those markets sold. The corridor opened into a wide chamber filled with stalls and cages. Jin stopped walking. His stomach turned. This wasn't a regular market. This was something else entirely. Creatures of all kinds sat in cages, some sleeping, some packing, some just staring with empty eyes. Aliens walked between the stalls, pointing and haggling. Some of the creatures in the cages looked back with intelligent eyes. Too intelligent. Jin knew he should turn around. This wasn't his problem. He had fuel to buy and a schedule to keep. But his feet didn't move. Instead, his eyes were drawn to a small cage in the corner, away from the main traffic. The cage was barely 2 feet tall and just as wide. Inside, pressed against the back bars, was something small and trembling. He walked closer without thinking about it. The creature was about the size of a house cat, covered in fur that shifted colors in the dim light. Purple, then blue, then silver. Its eyes were too large for its face, dark and wet with fear. It had small paws with delicate fingers, almost like hands. When it saw Jin approach, it pressed itself harder against the bars, trying to disappear. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind him. Jin turned. The alien standing there was tall and thin, with green-scaled skin and too many joints in its arms. Its smile showed pointed teeth. This was a Jin recognized. They had a reputation in the shipping lanes, not a good one. "What is it?" Jin asked, keeping his voice neutral. "A cub," the said, moving closer to the cage. The creature inside whimpered and curled into a ball. "Rare species. Very valuable. They have empathic abilities, you know. Can sense emotions, project their own. Make excellent companions for the wealthy, or excellent tools for interrogators." The way he said it made Jin's jaw tighten. "Where did you get it?" "Where I get all my merchandise is my business, human." The smile widened. "But if you're interested in purchasing, we can discuss prices. Are you interested?" Jin looked at the cage again. The cub was staring at him now with those large eyes. It was thin, too thin. He could see its ribs through the shimmering fur. There were marks on its body, dark patches that might have been bruises. One of its ears looked torn. "How much?" he heard himself ask. 50,000 credits, the said immediately. "A bargain, really. I've had offers for twice that, but the cub is damaged. Not as valuable as a healthy specimen. Still, 50,000 is more than fair." 50,000. Jin had maybe 500 credits to his name after paying for fuel and supplies. He looked at the whose name tag read. "That's a lot of money," Jin said. "Quality costs, human," waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. "If you can't afford it, there are cheaper options. I have several lizards that would suit a cargo hauler's budget much better." "Where did the cub come from?" Jin asked again. Smile didn't reach his eyes. "There was an unfortunate accident with a colony ship 3 months ago. Pirates, I heard. Terrible business. But these things happen in space. The adults were lost, but some cubs survived. I acquired this one through proper channels, of course." An accident, pirates, proper channels. Jin had been in space long enough to know what those words really meant. He looked at the cub again. It was watching him with an intensity that seemed wrong for an animal. No, not an animal, a person, a child. "Can I see it closer?" Jin asked. "Show me your credit balance first," said. "I don't waste time with window shoppers." The cub made a small sound, almost like a whimper. Its tiny paws reached through the bars toward Jin. The gesture was so human, so childlike that something in his chest tightened. He took a step closer to the cage, moved to block him. "Credits first," the repeated. Behind, two massive shapes moved into view. Jin recognized them immediately. 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating with arms thick as tree trunks. They were hired muscle, common in places like this. Both of them had plasma batons hanging from their belts. Both of them were staring at Jin with small, mean eyes. "Is the cub for sale or just for display?" Jin asked quietly. Laughed. It was a harsh sound like metal scraping metal. "Everything is for sale, human. Everything has a price. But you need credits to buy, and I don't think you have them. I think you're wasting my time." The cub whimpered again. Jin saw fresh bruises on its small body now that he was closer, purple marks against the shimmering fur. His hands, still in his pockets, slowly curled into fists. "I have 500 credits," he said. Laughed again. 500, 500. Is this a joke?" He turned to the enforcers. "This human thinks he can buy a cub for 500 credits. Should we be insulted?" The enforcers grinned, showing tusks. One of them put a hand on his plasma baton. A small crowd was starting to gather. Other dealers, other customers. They sensed something about to happen. Entertainment was rare in the lower markets. "Let me explain something to you," human said, stepping closer. "You're new to the galaxy. Your species just joined the coalition a few months ago. You don't understand how things work yet. This is a market, supply and demand. I have something rare. You want it, but you can't afford it. That's how it works. Now I suggest you leave before you become merchandise yourself." The threat hung in the air. The enforcers moved closer, flanking Jin. The crowd whispered and watched. Jin looked at the cub one more time. It was still reaching toward him through the bars. Its eyes were wet now, actually crying, tears running down its small face. "Did you beat it?" Jin asked, his voice very quiet. "What?" Seemed surprised by the question. "Those bruises, did you beat it?" Shrugged. "Discipline maintains value. The creature tried to bite me when I fed it. It needed to learn. Why do you care?" The crowd went quiet. Something in Jin's voice had changed, something in his posture. He took his hands out of his pockets slowly. His eyes, when he looked at, were cold. "I'm going to make you a different offer," Jin said. Leaned forward, interested despite himself. "Oh, and what's that?" "I'm going to take the cub," Jin said. "You're going to let me, and in exchange I'll only break the bones you can live without." The silence stretched, then laughed. "Did you just threaten me, human? You, alone, against my enforcers?" He laughed harder, and the crowd laughed with him. The first enforcer reached for Jin's shoulder. That was his mistake. What happened next happened fast. The enforcer's hand was large enough to wrap around Jin's entire shoulder. It never got the chance. Jin moved like water, smooth and fast. He grabbed the enforcer's wrist with both hands, turned his body, and used the alien's own weight against it. There was a crack like breaking wood. The enforcer's arm bent at an angle that arms weren't supposed to bend. The scream that followed was loud enough to silence the entire market. The second enforcer charged. This one was smarter, or thought it was. It went low, trying to tackle Jin around the waist. 800 pounds of muscle and armor moving fast. Jin didn't try to stop it. Instead, he moved with it, using momentum. He grabbed the enforcer's head as it came in, twisted his body, and helped the alien continue its journey, right into stall. The cage with the cub fell but didn't break. Wood and metal crashed, stumbled backward trying to get away. The second enforcer was slower to get up, dazed from the impact. The first was on its knees, cradling its broken arm and making sounds like a wounded animal. The crowd had gone silent. They were backing away, forming a circle. Some were already running. Others stayed to watch, eyes wide. Jin stood in the center, breathing steady, not even winded. He looked at who was scrambling for something in his robes, a weapon. The pulled out a plasma pistol, hands shaking. "You're insane," hissed. You humans are supposed to be weak, fragile, that's what the reports said. Soft skin, brittle bones, no natural weapons. The reports missed something, Jin said, walking forward. His voice was calm, almost conversational. We're social, we bond. And when something threatens what we've bonded with, we don't stop to think about the logic. We just act. Fired, the plasma bolt went wide, missing Jin by inches. It hit a stall behind him, setting it on fire. Jin didn't flinch. He kept walking. Fired again, and this time his hands were shaking so badly the shot went straight up into the ceiling. "Stay back," shouted. "I'll kill you, I'll." The third shot actually hit. It grazed Jin's shoulder, burning through his jacket and into the skin beneath. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. Jin looked down at the wound, then back at. He kept walking. "That hurt," Jin said. "That was a mistake." He closed the distance in 3 steps, tried to fire again, but Jin's hand was faster. He grabbed the pistol, twisted it away, and broke trigger finger in the process. The screamed. Jin dropped the pistol and kicked it away. "Let me teach you something," Jin said, loud enough for everyone watching to hear. "About humans. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Predators that could rip us apart. Diseases that could wipe out whole populations. Whether that could freeze or burn or drown us. We survived because we're stubborn, because we work together, because we protect our own." He grabbed S's wrist, the one with the broken finger. They tried to pull away, but Jin's grip was iron. "And here's the important part," Jin continued. "When I say our own, I don't just mean other humans. I mean anything we decide to protect. That cub in the cage, I decided. It's under my protection now. You hurt it. You were going to keep hurting it or sell it to someone else who would." He twisted. There was a snap. His wrist broke. They fell to his knees, screaming. "I told you I'd break the bones you can live without," Jin said. "A wrist, a finger, those heal. You'll remember this. Every time your hand aches when the weather changes, you'll remember that child in the cage." Behind him, the second enforcer was getting up. Jin heard it before he saw it. He turned just as the massive alien charged again, this time with its plasma baton active. Blue electricity crackled along the weapon's length. One hit from that would put Jin down, might even kill him. Jin waited until the last second, then dropped low. The baton swung through empty air. Jin drove his fist into the enforcer's knee joint, right where the armor plating had a gap. There was a crunch. The enforcer's leg buckled. As it fell, Jin grabbed the baton from its hand and tossed it away. "Stay down," he said. The enforcer, intelligent enough to know when it was beaten, stayed down. Jin turned back to, who was still on his knees. Tears were running down his face. His broken hand was cradled against his chest. "Please," gasped, "please no more." "Where are the others?" Jin asked. "What?" "The other cubs, you said some survived. Where are they?" Shook his head. "I don't know, I only had the one. The others were sold to the syndicate. They moved them to different locations. I don't know where." Jin believed him. He could see it in the alien's eyes. Was a small-time dealer, not a major player. He probably bought the cub from someone else, someone higher up the chain. "Listen carefully," Jin said, crouching down to look in the eyes. "You're going to tell station security everything. Who you bought the cub from, who else you know in this trade, everything. You're going to cooperate fully. And if I ever hear that you're back in this business, if I ever hear your name associated with trafficking again, I'll come back. And next time I won't stop at fingers and wrists. Do you understand?" Nodded frantically. "Yes, yes, I understand. I'll tell them everything, I promise." Jin stood up. His shoulder was starting to hurt now, the adrenaline wearing off. The burn from the plasma shot throbbed with each heartbeat. He walked to the fallen cage and knelt beside it. The cub was pressed into the corner, eyes wide with fear. But it wasn't looking at him with the same terror it had shown. "Hey there," Jin said softly. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to get you out of here." He carefully broke the lock on the cage door. It wasn't hard. The metal was cheap, designed to keep in scared creatures, not to withstand real force. The door swung open. The cub didn't move at first. It just stared at him. Jin held out his hand, palm up, not reaching, just offering. I know you're scared. I know you don't have any reason to trust me, but I promise I'm going to take care of you. No one's going to hurt you again. The cub's nose twitched. It was smelling him, Jin realized. Maybe it could sense his emotions through those empathic abilities had mentioned. Whatever it sensed, it must have been enough. Slowly, carefully, the cub crept forward. It sniffed his hand, then pressed its small head against his palm. Jin felt something he couldn't quite name, a wave of emotion that wasn't entirely his own. Fear, yes, but also hope, confusion, and underneath it all, a desperate need for safety. The cub's empathic abilities were working both ways, he realized. It was sharing what it felt, and somehow Jin could feel it too. He took off his jacket, wincing as the movement pulled at his burned shoulder. He wrapped the jacket around the cub like a blanket. The creature was so small, so light. It weighed almost nothing. He picked it up carefully, holding it against his chest. The cub burrowed into the jacket, hiding from the crowd of watching aliens. Station security was finally pushing through the crowd. 3 officers in armor holding weapons. They stopped when they saw the scene. 2 enforcers down, one with a broken arm, on his knees, cradling his hand. A human standing in the middle, holding something wrapped in a jacket, blood seeping through his shirt from a shoulder wound. What happened here? The lead officer asked. His scaled face unreadable. This dealer was trafficking sentient beings, Jin said, his voice steady. I objected. He resisted. His employees attacked me. I defended myself. The officer looked at, is this true? Opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded. He attacked me. I want to press charges. Show me your merchandise licenses, the officer said. His face went pale, well, paler than it already was. They're being processed. The officer looked around at the cages, at the other dealers who were suddenly very interested in being somewhere else. I think we need to have a longer conversation about this, all of you. He gestured to his fellow officers. Shut down this market. Arrest anyone who runs. As they began rounding up dealers, the lead officer approached Jin. You need medical attention for that shoulder. I'll take care of it on my ship, Jin said. That cub belongs to evidence. No, Jin's voice was flat. It belongs to itself. I'm not leaving it here. The officer studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Humans, I've heard about your species. Stubborn doesn't begin to cover it, does it? Not even close, Jin agreed. Get out of here before I change my mind, and get that shoulder looked at. Jin didn't need to be told twice. The walk back to his ship felt longer than Jin remembered. Every step made his shoulder throb. The burned skin was starting to blister. He kept the jacket-trapped bundle held carefully against his chest with his good arm. Inside the jacket, he could feel the cub trembling. The crystal runner was docked in Bay 47, wedged between a mining hauler and a passenger transport. She wasn't much to look at. 30 years old, patched in a dozen places, running on systems that should have been replaced a decade ago. But she was paid off, she was his, and she flew. That was enough. He climbed the loading ramp, keyed in his entry code, and sealed the door behind him. Only then did he let himself relax slightly. The cub poked its head out of the jacket, those large eyes scanning the ship's interior. Welcome home, Jin said softly. It's not much, but it's safe. He carried the cub to his small quarters and set it gently on his bunk. The creature immediately scrambled into the corner, pressing itself against the wall. Its fur shifted colors rapidly. Purple, blue, silver, purple again. Jin had read somewhere that meant stress in empathic species. Their bodies responded to their emotions visually. Okay, he said, sitting down on the floor several feet away. I need to take care of my shoulder. You stay there. I'm not going to touch you unless you want me to. He pulled off his burned shirt with difficulty, biting back a curse. The plasma burn was worse than he'd thought, about 4 inches long, blistered and weeping. He grabbed his from under the bunk and started cleaning it. The cub watched him with intense focus. As he worked, Jin talked. He'd heard that helped with scared animals, though calling this creature an animal felt wrong. I had a sister, he said, spreading burn gel on the wound. Her name was Na. She was younger than me by 3 years, person I ever knew. She loved space, wanted to see everything. He paused, remembering. She died 5 years ago, reactor accident on a station. I wasn't there. I was halfway across the sector hauling cargo. The cub's head tilted slightly, listening. I thought about quitting after that, Jin continued, applying a bandage. Thought about going back to Earth, getting a normal job, but I couldn't. This was her dream, you know, exploring the galaxy, meeting new species, so I kept flying for her. He looked at the cub. I'm going to call you Na if that's okay. You remind me of her, small but brave. The cub made a small sound, not quite a whimper, not quite a chirp. Its fur was settling into a steady silver color now. Less stressed. Jin finished bandaging his shoulder and put the away. He found a ration bar in his emergency supplies and broke off a piece. He held it out, not moving closer. You must be hungry, he said. Na's nose twitched. She crept forward slowly, eyes never leaving his face. She took the food delicately from his fingers and retreated back to her corner. She ate it quickly, almost desperately. When she finished, she looked at him hopefully. Jin smiled. More, okay. He broke off another piece. This time when she took it, she didn't retreat as far. By the 4th piece, she was eating from his hand without backing away. That's better, he said. You're safe here, No, I promise. A wave of emotion hit him suddenly. Not his own. It was coming from Na through that empathic connection. Gratitude mixed with lingering fear, trust beginning to form but still fragile, and underneath it all a deep, aching loneliness. Jin understood. She'd lost her family. She'd been caged, hurt, terrified, and now she was with a complete stranger of an alien species she'd probably never seen before. I know, he said softly. I know you're scared, but I've got you now, and I don't let go of what's mine to protect. He spent the next hour showing her the ship, moving slowly so she could follow at her own pace. The cargo bay, empty now. The small galley with its food processors. The cockpit with its screens and controls. Na seemed fascinated by everything, her large eyes taking it all in. By the time Jin settled into his bunk for the night, Na had made a nest of his spare clothes in the corner. She was curled up tight, but she wasn't shaking anymore. Jin set an alarm and closed his eyes, exhausted. The last thing he felt before sleep took him was a gentle wash of contentment from Na. She felt safe, at least for now. He woke 4 hours later to an incoming transmission alert. The ship's computer showed it was flagged as priority. Jin sat up, immediately alert. Na was awake too, watching him from her nest. It's okay, he said, probably just station admin. He was wrong. The transmission, when he opened it, showed a symbol he didn't recognize at first. 3 interlocked circles with a spike through them. Then his computer helpfully provided an ID. The Syndicate. His stomach dropped. The message was audio only. The voice that spoke was cold, mechanical, probably filtered through scramblers. Human designation Jin, operator of vessel Crystal Runner. You have stolen property belonging to the Syndicate. You have injured one of our business associates. You have interfered with our operations. This is unacceptable. Jin's jaw tightened. He didn't respond. This was a pre-recorded message. You have 24 hours to return the merchandise undamaged to the coordinates we will provide. You will also pay compensation for damages in the amount of 100,000 credits. Failure to comply will result in a bounty being placed on your head. You will be hunted. You will be found. You will learn that the Syndicate does not forgive. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Jin sat in silence for a moment, then checked his computer. The coordinates had been attached. Some station in the outer rim he'd never heard of. A Syndicate facility, probably. He deleted the message and began plotting a course. away from the coordinates, as far away as possible. Na made a worried sound. She'd felt his emotional spike, the flash of anger and fear. She crept out of her nest and approached him cautiously. "It's okay," Jin said, though it wasn't. "Just some bad people being stupid. They think I'm going to give you back to them. They think a threat is going to work." He reached down and Na, after a moment's hesitation, let him pick her up. She was so light, so fragile. He held her gently and she pressed her head against his chest, right over his heart. "I'm not giving you back," he said firmly. "I don't care what they threaten. I don't care about the bounty. You're safe with me." A wave of emotion from Na. Trust, deeper now, and something else. Affection. She was bonding with him, Jin realized. He was bonding with her. It had only been a few hours, but it felt like longer. He set her down carefully and went to the cockpit. Time to leave this station. He fired up the Crystal Runner's engines, requested departure clearance, and received it within minutes. The station was probably happy to see him go after the mess in the lower markets. As the ship pulled away from the docking clamps, Jin looked at the navigation screen. He had enough fuel to make it to the next system over. From there, he'd need to take on cargo jobs. Keep moving. Stay ahead of whoever the syndicate sent after him. Na climbed into the co-pilot's seat, which was comically too large for her. She looked at him with those intelligent eyes. "We're going to be running for a while," Jin told her. "The syndicate doesn't make idle threats. They'll send bounty hunters, maybe mercenaries. We need to stay smart, stay ahead of them." Na made a soft sound, not worried, almost determined. Jin smiled despite the situation. "Yeah," he said, "we'll be okay. Humans are good at running, we're good at surviving." The Crystal Runner jumped into hyperspace, leaving Theta 7 behind. In the cargo bay, secured to the wall, was one of broken plasma batons. Jin had picked it up on his way out of the market. Evidence, he'd told the station officer. In truth, he wanted a reminder of what he'd done, a reminder of what he was willing to do. 3 weeks passed. Jin took small cargo jobs, moving freight from one system to another. Nothing fancy, nothing that required him to stay in one place too long. Na grew stronger day by day. She put on weight. Her fur became glossier, shifting through its colors more smoothly. The torn ear started to heal. She followed Jin everywhere on the ship, her tiny feet padding behind him constantly. The empathic bond between them deepened. Jin found he could sense her moods even without seeing her. When she was happy, he felt it like sunshine. When she was scared, his own heart raced. It was strange at first, having someone else's emotions mixed with his own. But he got used to it. It felt right somehow. They avoided large stations, stuck to smaller refueling posts where security was minimal and people didn't ask questions. Jin kept his ship's transponder randomized, changing it every few days. He grew a beard, started wearing a cap, small changes that might buy him time. On the 22nd day, his luck ran out. He just docked at a small refueling station called Haven's Rest. The name was ironic. There was no rest in sight. Jin knew something was wrong the moment he stepped off the Crystal Runner. The station felt too quiet. Haven's Rest was usually busy, even for a small outpost. Today, the docking bay was nearly empty. The few people he saw hurried past without making eye contact. "Stay on the ship," he told Na. She chirped in protest but obeyed, retreating back into the cargo hold where he'd set up a hiding spot for her. A small space behind some crates where she could see out but others couldn't see in. He made it halfway to the refueling station office when they appeared, 6 of them stepping out from behind ships and containers. They were armed, professional, and they had him surrounded. "Jin," one of them called out, a human. That surprised him. The man was tall, maybe 40 years old, with a scar running down his left cheek. We need to talk." "I don't think we do," Jin said, measuring distances. 6 against 1. Bad odds, but he'd faced worse. "The syndicate wants their property back," said, walking closer. His team kept their weapons trained on Jin but didn't fire. And they want you, but I'm a reasonable guy. Give us the cub, pay half the bounty, and we forget we saw you. Walk away clean." "No," Jin said simply. Sighed, "I was afraid you'd say that. Look, man, I get it. It's a cute alien animal, but it's not worth dying for. The Syndicate doesn't mess around. Even if you get past us, they'll send more. They always do." "It's not an animal," Jin said. "It's a child, a person, and I'm not giving it back to slavers." "A person," laughed, but there was no humor in it. "It's an alien. It can't even talk. You're throwing your life away for something that isn't even human." "That's the problem with people like you," Jin said. "You think person means human. It doesn't. That cub is intelligent, empathic, aware. It feels pain. It feels fear. It deserves protection whether it can talk or not." One of the other bounty hunters, a woman with short black hair, shifted uncomfortably. Jin noticed. So did. "What are you doing?" asked. "Nothing," the woman said, but her weapon had lowered slightly. He's got a point." "We're not here to debate philosophy," snapped. "We're here for a bounty." He looked back at Jin. "Last chance, give us the cub." Jin felt something then, a pulse of emotion that wasn't his. Fear, not his own fear. Nuss. She was watching from the ship, her empathic abilities reaching out. He felt her terror, felt it spreading outward, and he realized something. She wasn't just projecting to him. She was projecting to everyone nearby. The bounty hunters felt it too. He could see it in their faces, suddenly uncomfortable. One of them lowered his weapon completely. "Boss, I don't feel good about this." "It's the cub," said quietly. "It's empathic, it's scared, it's just a scared kid." "I don't care what it is," said, but even his voice sounded less certain. The wave of fear and sadness coming from Noah's affecting them all. "We have a job to do." "Yeah," said, her weapon now pointed at the ground. "What kind of job? Hunting down someone who saved a child. Taking that child back to people who beat it and cage it. That's the job, that's what we're doing." "We're bounty hunters," said. "We take the jobs we're paid for." "Not this job," said. She holstered her weapon. "Not anymore, I'm out." Two more bounty hunters lowered their weapons. A young human male looked around, seeing his team falling apart. He swore. "Fine," he said. "Fine, go, but I'm finishing this." He raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Jin's chest. "I don't need the cub alive. I can prove I killed you, and that's worth half the bounty." Time seemed to slow. Jin saw his finger tighten on the trigger. He started to move, knowing he wouldn't be fast enough, then moved faster. She slammed into from the side, knocking his aim off. The shot went wide, hitting the station wall in a shower of sparks. "What are you doing?" shouted. "The right thing," said. She looked at Jin. "Run, get out of here." Jin didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted back to his ship, hearing shouting behind him, and arguing, the other bounty hunters adding their voices. He reached the crystal runner and slapped the ramp control. The loading ramp began to rise even as he ran up it. Num met him at the top, her small body pressed against his leg. She was shaking. He picked her up and ran for the cockpit. Behind him, he heard weapons fire, not aimed at the ship, he hoped, just bounty hunters fighting among themselves. The Crystal Runner's engines were still warm from the trip here. They fired up immediately. Jin didn't wait for clearance from station control. He just lifted off, the ship groaning as it pulled away from the dock. Alarms blared. Station security was probably scrambling. He didn't care. They were 100 meters from the station when another ship pulled alongside. Jin's hand went to the weapons control, then froze. It was a small fighter, and its transponder identified it as ship. His comm crackled. "Jin, it's don't shoot, I'm coming with you." "Why?" Jin asked, not lowering his guard. "Because was right about one thing," said. "The Syndicate won't stop. They'll keep sending hunters. You need help, and I can't keep working for people who traffic in children." Jin studied the fighter on his screen. It wasn't making any aggressive moves. Nut chirped from the co-pilot seat, her emotions projecting calm. Trust. She sensed something in that Jin couldn't. "All right," he said finally. "Follow me. We need to get out of this system." Both ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving Haven's Rest behind. In the docking bay, stood with the remaining bounty hunters watching them go. His face was dark with anger but also something else. Doubt. "Boss," one of his crew said, "what do we tell the syndicate?" Was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out a data pad and began typing. "We tell them the truth. Target escaped. Team was compromised by empathic abilities. We're standing down." He paused. "And we tell them where they're moving the other cubs." "What?" The crew member stared at him. "You heard me," said. "If that human's crazy enough to fight the syndicate over one cub, we might as well give him the tools to do it properly. Besides," he looked at the empty space where the ships had been. "Maybe's right. Maybe some jobs aren't worth taking." 2 days later, Jin and were hiding in an asteroid field, their ships powered down to minimal emissions. Na had warmed up too quickly, much to Jin's surprise. The young woman had a gentle way about her, and Na seemed to sense she meant no harm. "So what's your plan?" asked over the comm. They were using tight beam communication, harder for anyone to intercept. "Keep running," Jin said honestly. "Keep Na safe, that's it." "That's not a plan, that's just survival. The syndicate has resources, they'll find you eventually." "I know." Jin watched Na playing with a toy he'd made her from spare parts. "But what else can I do? I'm one person with a cargo hauler. I can't fight an organization." "No," said thoughtfully. "But what if you could free the other cubs? What if you could hurt the syndicate badly enough that they decide you're not worth the effort?" "That's insane. I don't even know where the cubs are." "I might," said. "Before I left sent me something, coordinates, and a message that just said tell him." There was a pause. I think he had a change of heart. Jin felt a flicker of hope, then pushed it down. "Even if we know where they are, we can't attack a syndicate facility. It's suicide." "Not if we have help," said. "I have a brother, Dongmin. He runs a mercenary company, human-operated. They call themselves the Iron Hounds. They're good people as far as mercenaries go. They don't take jobs that hurt the innocent." "And you think they'll help us?" "I think if I tell Dongmin that the syndicate is trafficking children, he'll be interested. And if I tell him a human is already fighting them alone, he'll be more interested. Humans don't leave other humans hanging, especially when the cause is right." Jin looked at Na. She looked back at him with those large, intelligent eyes. Through their bond, he felt her opinion clearly. She wanted to help the others. She'd been rescued. She wanted the same for her people. "All right," Jin said. "Set up the meeting, but if this goes wrong, if it puts Na in danger, then we run," finished. "I get it, the cub comes first." Na made a happy sound, her fur shifting to a bright blue. Happiness. Hope. Jin smiled despite himself. "When you picked her up in that market," said, "did you think it would lead to this?" "No," Jin admitted. "I just saw a scared kid who needed help. I didn't think past that moment." "That's very human of you," said with a laugh. "We're terrible at thinking ahead when someone needs help now. It's going to get us all killed someday." "Maybe," Jin said, "but at least we'll die doing the right thing." The meeting place was a neutral station called Crossroads. It sat at the junction of 3 trade routes, big enough to get lost in, small enough that the syndicate didn't control it. Jin kept Na hidden in his jacket as he walked through the crowded corridors toward the meeting spot. Was beside him, alert for trouble. "There," she said, pointing to a group of humans gathered near a viewport. 5 of them, all wearing matching dark jackets with a wolf emblem. The Iron Hounds. The man in front was tall and broad-shouldered, his face weathered by years in space. He had the same eyes as. This had to be Dongmin. "Brother," said, and the man's stern face broke into a smile. They embraced quickly. "Little sister," Dongmin said. "I got your message, couldn't quite believe it, you going straight, never thought I'd see the day." "I'm not going straight," said. "I just picked a better fight." She gestured to Jin. "This is Jin, the one I told you about." Dongmin studied Jin with sharp eyes. You're the cargo hauler who fought his way through a black market to save an alien cub. I didn't plan it that way, Jin said. I just couldn't walk away. Show him, Dongmin said, nodding toward the jacket. Jin hesitated, then carefully opened his jacket. Nup poked her head out, blinking in the light. Her fur shifted through nervous colors. The iron hounds gathered closer, and Nup rejected her fear instinctively. The mercenaries felt it, stepping back slightly. Easy, little one of them said softly, a woman with scars on her arms. We're not going to hurt you. Na studied them, then gradually calmed. Her empathic sense told her these humans meant no harm. Her fur settled into a calm silver. Stars, Dongmin breathed. She's just a baby. He looked at Jin with new respect. Told me what you did, breaking a dealer's bones, fighting off enforcers. I thought she was exaggerating, but looking at you now, seeing why you did it. He shook his head. You're either the bravest person I've met or the craziest. Probably both, Jin admitted. Good, Dongmin said with a grin. Crazy is what we need for this job. Show me the coordinates. They moved to a private room had rented. Jin pulled up the data had sent. A facility in the system, deep in Syndicate territory. The images showed a small station, well defended but not a fortress. 15 cubs, Dongmin read from the intelligence report. Plus guards, staff, and security systems. This won't be easy. I'm not asking for easy, Jin said. I'm asking if you'll help. Dongmin was quiet for a moment, studying the data. Then he looked at his team. What do you think? The Syndicate needs to be hit, one of them said. They've been getting too bold lately. Trafficking, extortion, murder. Someone should remind them they're not untouchable. Agreed, the woman said. And if we can save those cubs in the process, even better. Dongmin nodded. All right, we're in, but we're going to need more than just the 6 of us. He pulled out a communicator. I know a few other crews who might be interested. Humans don't like bullies, and the Syndicate has been bullying everyone for too long. Over the next week, more ships arrived at Crossroads. Word had spread through human channels. A cargo hauler had rescued a cub from slavers and now planned to attack a Syndicate facility to free more. It was the kind of crazy, noble, stupid thing that humans found irresistible. Ex-military personnel showed up, bored with civilian life and looking for a good fight. Traders who'd been extorted by the Syndicate came seeking revenge. Even a human coalition representative named Jin arrived, bringing intelligence files and supply caches. Officially, the coalition can't support this, Jin said, handing Jin a data chip. Unofficially, here are the security codes for that facility and the patrol schedules for Syndicate ships in the area. Use them wisely. Why are you helping? Jin asked. Jin smiled. Because someone needs to show the galaxy that humans stand for something. The coalition plays politics, but sometimes what's right is more important than what's diplomatic. By the time they were ready to move, Jin counted 20 ships. Not a fleet, not really. Just a bunch of humans who decided that a Syndicate facility needed to have a very bad day. The night before the attack, Jin sat with Na in his quarters. She was bigger now, healthier. Her fur shone with vibrant colors. She chirped at him and he felt her concern through their bond. She knew what was coming. She knew it was dangerous. I have to do this, he told her. There are others like you who need help. I can't leave them there. Na pressed her head against his hand. Through the empathic connection she shared her feelings. Fear for him, hope for the others. And love, pure, simple love for the human who'd saved her. I'll come back, Jin promised. I swear it. The attack came at dawn, station time. 20 human ships dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously, catching the Syndicate facility completely by surprise. The station's defenses activated, but Jin's codes worked perfectly. Half the weapon systems went offline immediately. The Iron Hounds led the assault, their fighters strafing the station's exterior defenses. Jin piloted the crystal runner in behind them, the old cargo hauler's shield straining under weapons fire. Fighter stayed on his wing, protecting him. They breached the station through a cargo airlock. Marines in combat armor stormed in first, securing the area. Jin followed with a small team, heading for the holding cells where the cubs were kept. Na had insisted on coming, and he hadn't been able to say no. She rode in a reinforced carrier on his back, protected but able to help. The station's interior was chaos. Syndicate guards fired from behind cover. Human fighters returned fire with precision. No one wanted to risk hitting civilians or the cubs. It made the fighting harder, more dangerous. 3 humans went down in the first corridor. More behind them dragged them to safety. Jin reached the holding area to find it sealed with a heavy blast door. The Syndicate was making a stand here. They knew what the humans were after. "We need cutting torches," someone said. "This door is reinforced." "No time," Jin said. He looked at the door's control panel, then at Jin's access codes. He entered them, and after a tense moment, the door hissed open. Inside, the holding cells were a nightmare. 15 small cages, each containing a terrified cub. They were thin, scared, some injured. When they saw the armed humans, they cowered. Jin opened Nu's carrier. She jumped out and immediately ran to the cages, chirping and projecting emotions. The other cubs felt it, felt her hope, her safety, her love for the human who'd saved her. They stopped cowering and started reaching through the bars. "Get them out," Jin ordered. His team moved quickly, breaking locks and opening cages. The cubs stumbled out, weak but alive. Na moved among them, touching each one, sharing her strength through empathic connection. Behind them, the sound of weapons fire intensified. The Syndicate was mounting a counterattack. Dong Min's voice crackled over the comm. "Extraction team, get those cubs out now. We can't hold this position much longer." Getting the cubs back to the ships was harder than getting in. They were scared, confused, not used to moving freely. Several of the human fighters picked up cubs and carried them, protecting them with their own bodies. Jin carried 2, one under each arm, with Na riding on his shoulders, projecting calm to all of them. They made it back to the cargo airlock under heavy fire. One human took a plasma bolt to the leg but kept moving, refusing to drop the cub he was carrying. Another created a shield with their own body when the ceiling started collapsing, protecting 2 cubs from falling debris. The Crystal Runner's cargo bay had been converted into a temporary shelter. Jin loaded the cubs inside with help. They were all accounted for, 15 rescued plus Na, all alive. "Go, go, go," Dong Min shouted over the comm. The human ships began pulling back, covering each other's retreat. The Syndicate facility was in flames, its defenses shattered. They wouldn't be trafficking anyone from that station again. The jump to hyperspace was rough. Several ships had damage, but they'd made it. They'd actually made it. In the cargo bay, Jin sat among the 15 rescued cubs. They were still scared, still traumatized. But Na moved among them, and with her empathic abilities, she helped them understand. They were safe now. The humans had saved them. Everything would be okay. Brought medical supplies and started treating injuries. Other humans from the fleet shuttled over to help. No one was a trained veterinarian, but they did their best. The cubs responded well to the gentle treatment, to the kindness. "What happens now?" asked, bandaging a cub's paw. "We find somewhere safe for them," Jin said. "The coalition has a refugee program. Jin promised she'd help. We'll find them good homes with people who'll take care of them." "And Na?" asked, looking at the cub who'd started everything. Jin smiled as Na climbed into his lap, curling up like she always did. "She stays with me. She's family now." The news of the raid spread quickly through the galaxy. A group of humans had attacked a Syndicate facility and freed 15 trafficked cubs. The Syndicate tried to spin it as piracy, but the evidence was overwhelming. Coalition authorities were forced to investigate. More Syndicate facilities were raided, this time legally. The organization began to crumble. Jin returned to cargo hauling, but his ship was different now. Stayed on as co-pilot. Two of the rescued cubs, unable to adjust to life without humans, bonded with her and stayed aboard. The Crystal Runner became known in certain circles as a safe transport for refugees. If you needed to escape persecution, if you needed protection, you found your way to Jin's ship. 3 months after the rescue, Jin received a transmission from the dealer, recovered from his injuries, had given evidence against the syndicate in exchange for a lighter sentence. He was serving time in a coalition prison now, but he wanted Jin to know something. "You were right, humans," message said. "I didn't understand before, but I do now. What I was doing, it was wrong. I can't fix it. I can't bring back the ones who died because of my greed, but I wanted you to know that you changed something. You changed me." Jin deleted the message without responding. Some things couldn't be forgiven, not easily, but it was something, a start. In bars and stations across the galaxy, the story became legend. The human who broke a dealer's bones to save a cub, the human who led a raid on the syndicate. But Jin didn't care about legend. He cared about the small, silvery cub sleeping in his quarters, safe and loved. He cared about the 2 other cubs playing in the cargo bay with. He cared about doing the right thing, even when it was hard. On a quiet night in deep space, with the ship on autopilot, Jin sat in the cockpit watching the stars. Noah's in his lap, her empathic presence a constant comfort. She looked up at him with those intelligent eyes, and through their bond, he felt her question. Would he do it again? Would he risk everything for a stranger, knowing how much trouble it would cause? Jin smiled and scratched behind her ear in the spot that made her purr. "In a heartbeat," he said. Because that was what it meant to be human. Not the strength to break bones, though humans had that. Not the stubbornness to never give up, though humans had that too. It was the simple inability to walk past someone who needed help. The absolute refusal to let evil win without a fight. The galaxy was learning that about humanity. Slowly, one rescued cub at a time, and Jin was fine with that. Let them learn. Let them know that humans bonded fast, protected fiercely, and never gave up on those they called family. Nutbird in his lap, her fur shifting through happy colors. Silver, blue, gold, she was content, she was safe, she was home. And for Jin, that was worth more than all the credits in the galaxy.